If you're on a Mac, then of course you never get any viruses and there are no security issues that you will ever face. Except that's not true. The thing with Macs is there was a time where they didn't have as much market share, so you didn't see as many viruses being developed for the platform. Malicious actors will always try to get the most common platform or the one with the most security vulnerabilities. And it's true, Macs are very secure systems, but that doesn't mean we can just ignore security when it comes to our Mac computers. And just getting an antivirus program isn't actually addressing security. There's more to it than that. In this video, I'm going to show you some settings on a Mac that are very important to check to make sure that you're running an environment that is as secure as possible. And I'll even show you a couple of tricks for things like ChatGPT that are also important to protect your data. Let's take a look at security on a Mac. I'm going to go into search and then I'm going to look for system settings. This is where I'll find most of my security features. If I go in here, you'll see that I can go and modify a lot of different settings, obviously, including things like privacy and security. Now, I won't go through everything here, but I'll go through some of the more important ones. One is to encrypt the files on my disk, so if my computer was stolen, nobody could read those files, and that's the file vault. You want to make sure the file vault is turned on. We can also go down and we can look at something called lockdown mode. This will really lock down my system if I want to be in a highly secure environment. I often don't keep that one turned on, but if you're in a secure, you want a highly secure environment, that's good. I can choose whether I allow just App Store or App Store and known developers to install computer programs on my computer. And you can see here there's a number of different settings. For example, the camera, I can choose which applications can use the camera. Same with microphone, which applications can use the microphone. And I recognize some of these applications, and in some cases they don't need access to those resources. I can do that with all of my various apps. I have an incredible level of control of which apps and which systems can access different resources. And I should take the time to make sure I'm not allowing things to access things that they don't need access to. This is a great way to ensure that I have a secure environment by making sure I'm mindful of what's using what. Now, I'm showing you a lot of security features in this video, but Blossom and I both know that sometimes you can use a little bit of help, and that's where the sponsor of today's video, Moonlock, comes in to help. Moonlock for Mac has a number of built-in security tools that'll make my Mac much more secure, but it also has a very interesting feature that walks me through the process of configuring security on my Mac, meaning that I'm not just using a tool that I install, but I'm actually learning the principles around security in order to ensure that I'm securing my Mac with things like two-factor authentication and such. So it has things such as a VPN, it has things such as a network monitor, all the different tools that you would expect, but it also has a lot of fantastic tutorials and guidance on how to ensure that my Mac remains secure. Moonlock is quite interesting. It has the tools, of course, like a VPN, where you can go in, select different countries that you'd like your computer to appear to be coming from. This is great for doing things like masking where you're located, choosing other countries if you want to have the computer access resources in those countries as if it was a local machine. You can also go in and look at the security advisor. This is that step-by-step process to advise you how to configure your Mac. This is probably one of my favorite features. As you go through each of the different security advising tabs, you agree to do these things, you learn how to do these things, and then you have a much more secure Mac. It has a malware detector. You can do a quick balance check or a deep check. A network inspector. This is another very interesting feature because you can actually exclude traffic from specific countries. So you can choose all these different countries and you can say exclude traffic. You could select all and then just open the countries you want. Go to sanctioned countries if you want to exclude them as well. I think it's great that Moonlock doesn't just go and configure your computer in the background. It does all those types of things to make sure that you have a secure environment and secure tools. But I really think the fact that it helps you understand security is a huge, huge added value. And speaking of added value, they did offer a discount code. I'll make sure to put that down below in the comments. So check it out for yourself, and if you're ready to grab a copy to put on your Mac, you can even get a discount on it. Now, some other settings that are important to me is the ability to modify my lock screen. If I leave the Mac on a desk or if I step away from my Mac, I can control when the Mac will go into a lockdown mode, when the screensaver goes on, and how long that takes. I always recommend that when the screensaver goes on, it immediately requires a password in order to go back into your Mac. Now, you can change all of these settings to match your environment. This is going to depend whether your Mac is in your office or if it's a laptop. You definitely want to go in. You can put additional fingerprints for authentication on here. You can modify your password here as well under your Touch ID and password. And you can choose how your Touch ID is used and when your password is required. This can be very powerful because it really controls the Mac from being accessed automatically. I can also go into my general settings, and you can see here I have a lot of settings for things like date and time and all that sort of good things. But I can also go in here and I can reset my Mac if I was ever to sell it or if I wanted to give it to someone else. You can also go in here and do things like backups and such. You can choose whether or not you want to store your passwords in the password manager. So this is useful because it'll keep track of all your passwords and you can control how those passwords are stored and make modifications to them. I won't open my passwords, but you can go in and change those. We can also change how artificial intelligence works on your Mac. So I'm using Apple Intelligence here, and I can go in and delete my history if I want. I do that on a fairly frequent basis just to make sure it's not lying there. I can attach ChatGPT to be used by Apple as well. So if I go into ChatGPT though, if I set it up, I have to have an OpenAI account. So I can connect my OpenAI account so that it's used within my Mac. And you can see here I can enable ChatGPT. If it is something that I want to use, I will have to sign in, authenticate, and then I can use ChatGPT within the Mac environment as well. You can even connect it up, or I can just leave it so it's not used at all. And there are a couple of gotchas with ChatGPT. With ChatGPT, it will use anything that you're working on in order to train the public model. And we might not want that. So to avoid that, if we go into ChatGPT, we log into our ChatGPT account, you'll go down to where your name is, and you'll see that you can go into settings. Underneath settings of ChatGPT, you can go in and make modifications to all your settings, of course. But if you go into your data controls, notice it doesn't say don't train the public model. It says don't improve the model for everyone. They're trying to guilt you into allowing your data to be used to train the public model by telling you that if you don't allow this, you're not helping to improve the model for everyone. It's a form of social guilt, and I don't really like that. I don't really want my private data to be used to train a public model. Now, when it comes to security, making sure that we've gone in and modified our settings is really just part of the security picture. We have to do things like make sure we're using good quality passwords. We have to do things like two-factor authentication. And I think Moonlock, with that step-through process, is a very good starting point to make sure that you're understanding security. Plus using things like the VPN, malware scanners, and the network configurator as well. These are all great ways to do our best to secure our environment. We also need to make sure that we're aware of what a scam looks like. If somebody's trying to phone us and make us give up private information, that's called social engineering. There's a lot to think about when it comes to security. It almost makes it feel like we can't do anything without having to worry about security, and to some extent that's true. We have to be aware. It's like anything. There are a lot of threats out there. It doesn't mean that we can't enjoy using our computers and going out on the internet, but it does mean that we have to be diligent. And I think that a Mac in its inherent state is a very secure system, and you can see that I could go in and really configure the security at a very strong, minute level, where I could go in and make certain programs that only are allowed to access certain resources. That's powerful, and as you get used to doing that, it actually becomes easier to configure the security. So I hope that what you saw was useful and that you'll go in, think about security on your Mac. Even though it's a secure system, you'll think about viruses and malware and network configurations and making sure you're using strong passwords and making sure you're going into system settings and protecting your valuable data and your computer resources. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.